Thank you for the warm introduction, Sage. You all got a little preview of the slideshow, so I hope you enjoyed. I want to throw out just a couple thank yous before I get going. To the EcoBuilding Guild, it's just so inspiring to see all these really invested people volunteering their time to make the world a better place and hopefully last a little longer. To Dunn Lumber, to Euroclimb, and to Green Home Solutions, you guys have helped us out a lot in the past, so thank you. And also shout out, we have a former student in the audience and a board member, so glad you're here, Vita and Andrew. I'm Sarah Smith. I'm the Executive Director of Sawhorse Revolution and a co-founder, and I'm really excited to share our work. To start off, I don't know if any of you guys know this, but in the last 25 years, Seattle has lost all but 3 of its public high school shop classes. And at the beginning of last year, there were 4, meaning that there's a huge high rate of attrition for the access to hands-on learning for young people today. And it's super surprising, given that Seattle's vibe is like pretty grizzled carpenter. So I'm here to talk about the impact and the need for manual education for young people, how we can provide more access to tools and inspiring projects like ecological projects, but just giving people the idea that they can transform their own world. I run a nonprofit with a bunch of friends called Sawhorse Revolution. Our mission is to foster confident and community-oriented youth through the power of carpentry and craft. And our model is really simple. Basically, we take professional carpenters and architects, team them with a group of about 10 to 15 high school students, and have them build rad projects in their own neighborhoods. We started in 2010 as a summer camp. It was a project that my friends and I put together because we had a ton of free time thanks to the recession. We were all kind of figuring out at that moment that that philosophy degree and that 18th century literature degree weren't actually job skills. So we kind of got together and tried to figure out maybe we could create education programs that fill that gap. And after a bunch of experimenting and deciding we didn't really need to work with elementary students, as wonderful as they are, we wanted to do a little bit more focused projects. Brainstormed a project that wouldn't exactly look like work, that would be inspiring and fun and appropriate to a high school level of thinking, which is, in a way, an adult brain. We built a treehouse. Gosh, it's all sounding wrong. But to show the power of what teens can actually do, we built a treehouse 30 feet up in the forest canopy at a farm, where I was volunteering and kind of learning to build through destroying buildings and then slowly rebuilding them. This established our model, which is to do inspiring projects that take more than one person, and projects that are so ambitious that you just do give yourself to it a little bit more. Since then, we've actually done 40 different projects. We came into the city as a year-round program in 2012, and today serve about 150 students a year. And our projects range from anything from really complicated and beautiful, considerately designed tiny houses for the homeless, to a stage installed in the Seattle Public Library that elevates students' work to the same level as some of the best architecture in the city, to the whimsical Dream Archive, which is a project meant to inspire youth about the creativity and the intelligence inherent in working with your hands. Since inception, we've served 600 youth, and all of our projects are offered totally free of cost, because we don't want to just be giving this education experience to people who already have a lot. So 2/3 of our youth are people of color, 3/4 come from low-income backgrounds, and I'm super stoked because more than half of our students since inception are young women. Yeah. We do an annual survey every summer, and we figured out that we've managed to touch base with about 1/4 of our students, and of those, about 24 have landed in the trades, which is pretty cool. But luckily for us, that's not the only point of our work. We're not just trying to pump out the next generation of really amazing carpenters. What we're interested in is the whole possibility and the realm of youth development, and development as well for the mentors that happens through hands-on learning. And I think this plays out in 3 different ways: in a solo arena, in a group arena, and then on a sort of city arena or community neighborhood. So, to get started, how does manual learning impact an individual's relationship to their world? Well, I don't know if anyone's ever read the book Shop Class as Soulcraft by Matthew Crawford. Yeah, a couple of people. And in it, he talks about the sort of like thorniness of working with your hands, how when you work with your hands, it's basically not smooth. And he uses the example of old motorcycles, and you had to like put exactly this right amount of oil into the clutch and then throttle it just so, or it would just kick back and practically kick you off your bike. And that's what I find so often for myself working with my hands, and also seeing it with the students, that encountering these tangible challenges, the thorny material reality that we live in, they start to find something in themselves that's just a little bit more confident. It's a struggle with the material world that makes a difference. In one of our programs recently, a student named Lewis had a lot of challenges in his background, was a good kid, and he showed up on site, and our program coordinator, Meg, was like, "Hey, Lewis, you want to use the chop saw?" And he was like, "No." And pretty much every day of program, until the very last day, Meg would gently ask him if he wanted to use the chop saw, and he would always kind of politely decline. But as the program went forward, and they were building a beautiful house for the homeless out of salvaged materials, and he saw it happening, and he saw his peers using the chop saw, on the last day, he thought, okay, I'll try this. And he spent that entire day just using the chop saw, making the siding happen, and he left that day with a huge grin on his face. He's since done 4 different programs with us, and his administrators report that his school attendance jumped, that his attitude in school has changed. And I know that's not entirely us. And even if it was entirely us, it's not like Sawhorse. It's just the opportunity to work with the material world and to uncover your own strength and your own resiliency in the face of like a fairly safe but real challenge. Yeah. Let's give it up for Lewis. So, related, carpentry in particular, I think, but lots of hands-on work, also offers a really interesting way of working as a group that still gives that kind of thorniness, the thorniness that comes with material reality. When you're working on a job site, and I'm sure a lot of you have this experience, it's not like exactly always a hunky-dory experience. Say your lead contractor is a little grumpy that day, or your coworker didn't quite get enough sleep, and you really have to navigate a lot of communication. And so we're really interested in the possibility of an education system and an education situation that supports the social relationships between people in thorny situations and positive ones. So what's happening here in this photo, this is at the Judkins Pea Patch back in 2014. And there was a day during this build when it just got super cramped. We were all like tucked into this tiny curved roof burn cedar tool shed, but it was a little bit frustrating because like some people are working around the door, some people are working inside, and we got a few complaints during the break, like they're not letting me do my work. So we had sort of a group discussion about what to do and how to handle this. And the idea that came out was that people would, instead of getting really frustrated at each other for being in each other's way, start to take that as a challenge and a way to take care of each other and consider what each other were doing. So that way, when you're carrying a really long board on your shoulder, and you have to do this anyway, you're paying attention to all the ends and the people around you. Maybe you take a break. Maybe you get your coworkers some water. But it was just a really, after that day, and that was like a pivotal moment in the project. Like we transformed from kind of like a we don't know each other that well experience to a group of people that was really teamed up together. And I think there's something about the educational environment of carpentry and working through thorny situations that actually makes a difference. Which brings me to an idea that I've been kind of circling around this whole time, and that it's that tangibly acting on our worlds, we better understand ourselves and each other. And I want to call up a little quote from the poet Paul Valery to help with this. He says, "If they are fit and well, all children are absolute monsters of activity. They're tearing up, breaking, building, they're always at it. You might say they are conscious of all things around them insofar as they can act on them, or through them, in no matter what way. The action, in fact, is all." And so my third and final proposition to you is that the same principle actually applies in the most challenging social issues of our time: homelessness, racism, sexism, poverty, ecological challenges like you all are working on. That there might actually, through building and through hands-on learning, be a way of getting to know these challenges and relate to them and really feel them that's just a little bit more active. In our homelessness projects, Oftentimes, we have the students work with architects for a semester to design a house for people experiencing homelessness. And what this looks like is the students go into the camps and they have prepared a client consultation the same way you would professionally with a $25 million house or a speculative townhome, potentially if you had a client or developer. And they go and they ask the residents for about 2 hours just about their lives, what they experience, what they need. And it's a level of detail that goes kind of beyond just walking a mile in someone else's shoes. It's a little bit cliche, but you don't just walk a mile in the shoes. Then you figure out how wet those shoes are after they've walked a mile, and where they take them off, and where they put them at the end of the night when you only have 120 square feet. It's just such a different way of relating to a social issue, to design in that way. And then to build it, you learn about the sweat and the hard work that goes into changing something in the world. And you realize that your whole year has been dedicated to 120 square feet, a small project, but through it, you've learned about yourself and your community and your neighborhood. And the goal of this kind of education is actually to change the world. It tangibly reshapes our neighborhoods, small but significant ways. So I wanted to share this about Sawhorse, about to advocate for more hands-on learning wherever possible in your eco projects, in schools. Hopefully in the years to come, there'll be more initiatives to bring back shop class. If you want to help right now, Sawhorse is having a beautiful little fundraiser on December 13th. You can come build gingerbread houses with us. And I would recommend you go to the EcoBuilders Guild thing and then come to our fundraiser on the 13th. So thank you so much.